Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashikam Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanajana Shalakya Chakshura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sabhushitam Chintya Samasta Venu Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidamujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noi Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavananam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambunem Sri Sanatan Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Mandetam Shubhanam Mareka Sharanam Yashishwara Shidaram Vanchakopatarubhyasya Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gora Tavishe Nama. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila chapter 24, explanations of the Atmarama verse. I'll start with verse number 283. E aratinarta ganate paila e duiarta mili chabisha arta hoila. In this way, we have found three more meanings of the Atmarama verse. Combine these with the other meanings, and the total number of meanings adds up to 26 in all. Ara arta shunajaha artera bandar stule dui arta sukme batrisha prakar. There is yet another meaning which is full of variety of imports. Actually, there are two gross meanings and 32 subtle meanings. The two gross meanings refer to regulative devotional service and spontaneous devotional service. There are also 32 subtle meanings under the heading of regulative devotional service. There are 16 meanings based on understanding the word Atmarama to mean 1. A servant of the Lord as his personal associate. 2. A personal friend. 3. Personal parents or similar superiors. 4. A personal beloved. 5. A servant elevated by spiritual cultivation. 6. A friend by spiritual cultivation. 7. Parents and superior devotees by cultivation of devotional service. 8. A beloved wife or female friend by cultivation of devotional service. 9. A mature devotee is a servant. 10. A mature devotee is a friend. 11. A mature devotee is a parent and superior. 12. A mature devotee is a wife and beloved. 13. An immature devotee is a servant. 14. An immature devotee is a friend. 15. An immature devotee is a father or superior. And 16. An immature devotee is a beloved. Similarly, under the heading of spontaneous devotional service, there are also 16 various associates. Therefore, the total number of devotees under the headings of regulative devotees and spontaneous devotees is 32. Atma Shabdi ko hi Sarvabhauma Bhagavan, Eksvayam Bhagavan ar Bhagavan Akyan. The word Atma refers to all the different expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, and the other are different incarnations or expansions of Krishna. Tate Ramijay se sab Atmarama Bidi Bhakta Raga Bhakta Dui Biranama. One who always engages in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Atmarama. There are two types of Atmaramas. One is an Atmarama engaged in regulative devotional service, and the other is an Atmarama engaged in spontaneous devotional service. Duivida Bhakta Hoy Chari Chari Prakar Parishad Sarana Siddha Sadaka Gana Ar. Both the Atmaramas engaged in regular devotional service and those engaged in spontaneous devotional service are further categorized into four groups. There are the eternal associates, the associates who have become perfect by devotional service, and those who are practicing devotional service and are called sadhakas, of which there are two varieties. Jata Jata Rati Bede Sadaka Dui Bed Bidiraga Marga Chari Chari Ashtabed. Those who are practicing devotional service are either mature or immature. Therefore, the sadhakas are of two types. Since the devotees execute either regulated devotional service or spontaneous devotional service, and there are four groups within these two divisions altogether, there are 8 varieties. Vidi Bhaktye Nityasiddha Parishad Das Sakaguru Kantagana Charibida Prakash. By executing regular devotional service, one is elevated to the platform of an eternally perfect associate, such as a servant, friend, superior, or beloved woman. Each of these is of 4 varieties. Sadhana Siddha Das Sakaguru Kantagan Jatarati Sadhaka Bhattacharya Binajan. Among those who have perfected themselves by devotional service there are servants, friends, superiors, and beloved damsels. Similarly, there are 4 types of mature devotees. Ajatarati Sadhaka Bhakta Echari Prakar Bidi Marge Bhakti Shodasha Beda Prachar. Within the category of regulated devotional service, there are also immature devotees. These are also of 4 varieties. Thus, in regulative devotional service, there are altogether 16 varieties. Raga Marge Aiche Bhakti Shodasha Bibed Dui Marge Atmarama Bhattacharya Bibed. On the path of spontaneous devotional service, there are also 16 varieties of devotees. Thus, there are 32 types of Atmaramas enjoying the Supreme Lord on these 2 paths. Muni Nigranta Cha Api Chari Shaber Shabdera Arta Jahanje Lagetahan Koriye Samarta. When these 32 types of devotees are qualified with the words Muni, Nirgranta, Cha, and Api, the meanings can be increased in different ways and very soundly elaborated upon. Batrishe Shabi Shemili Ashta Panchash Ara Ek Bedashuna Artera Prakash. When we add the 26 types of devotees to these 32, they altogether number 58. You may now hear from me of further manifestations of meanings. Itare tara cha diya samasa koriye atana bara atmarama namaloye. In this way, as I add the word cha to one word after another, I make a compound. Thus, the different names of Atmaramas can be taken 58 times. Atmaramas cha atana bar sheshe sab lopa kori huraki ek bar. In this way, one can repeat the word Atmarama with cha for each of the 58 meanings. By following the rule previously stated and rejecting all but the last, we retain that which represents all the meanings. So this is a grammatical rule. You don't have to repeat all the 58 meanings. You just mention the word cha. In this way, one can repeat the word Atmarama with cha for each of the 58 meanings. By following the rule previously stated and rejecting all but the last, we retain that which represents all the meanings. Those grammatical endings, and this will apply to all the 58 different types of Atmaramas. Not need to mention them individually. Sarubhanam ek sesha ek vibhakto uttartanam aprayoga iti. Of words having the same form and case termination, the last one is the only one retained. Atana chakarer sab lopahoy ek atmarama shabde atana artakoi. When all the chakaras or additions of the word cha are taken away, 58 different meanings can still be understood by the one word Atmarama. Ashwata brikshas cha bata brikshas cha kapita brikshas cha amra brikshas cha vriksha. By the plural word vriksha, trees, all trees such as banyan trees, fig trees, kapita trees, and mango trees are indicated. Asmin bane brikkan, asmin bane brikka falanti jaiche hoy, taiche sab atmarama, Krishna bhakti karoi. The Atmarama verse is like the sentence, in this forest many different trees bear fruit. All Atmaramas render devotional service to Lord Krishna. Atmaramascha samuchaye kohiye chavakar munayascha bhakti kore e artatar. After uttering the word Atmarama 58 times and taking cha in a sense of aggregation, one may add the word munaya. That will mean that the great sages also render devotional service to Lord Krishna. In this way, there are 59 meanings. Nigranta eva hoya api nirdarane e una shasti prakara arta vyakyane. Then taking the word near grunt and considering api in the sense of sustenance, I have tried to explain a 59th meaning of the verse. Sarva samuchayara ek arta hoy atmaramas cha munaya cha nigrantas cha bajoy. Taking all the words together, there is another meaning. Whether one is Atmarama, great sage, or a Nigranta, everyone must engage in the service of the Lord. The word Sarva Samuchaya is significant here and includes all classes of men, Atmaramas, Munis, and Nigrantas. Everyone must engage in the service of the Lord, taking the word api in the sense of ascertainment. There are altogether 60 different meanings. Api Shabda Abhadarane Seho Charibar Chari Shabda Sange Evera Koribe Uchar. The word api is then used in the sense of ascertainment, and then the word eva can be uttered 4 times with 4 words. Urukrame eva, bhaktim eva, ahaitukim eva, kurvanti eva. The word urukrama, bhakti, ahaituki, and kurvanti are added to the word eva again and again. Thus, another meaning is explained. Eta kohilun shloker shashti sangyaka arta ara ek arta shuna pramane samarta. Now I have given 60 different meanings of the verse, and yet there is another meaning which is also very strongly evident. Atma shabde kohe ketragya jivalakan brahmadi kita parjanta tara shakite ganan. The word Atma also refers to the living entity who knows about his body. That is another symptom. From Lord Brahma down to the insignificant ant, everyone is counted as the marginal potency of the Lord. Vishnu Shakti Paraprukta Kshetragyakya Tatapara Avidya Karma Samgyaya Tritiya Shaktir Ishyate. The potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in 3 categories, namely the spiritual potency, the living entities, and ignorance. The spiritual potency is full of knowledge. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment. And the third energy, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. The second category, of course, is Kshetragya, the embodied living beings. Which are called the marginal potency. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment. Kshetragya Atma Purusha Pradhanam Prakriti Striyam. The word Kshetra refers to the living entity, the enjoyer, the chief, and material nature. The word Kshetragya refers to the living entity, the enjoyer, the chief, and material nature. Brahmite jadi sadhu sangapai sabatyaji tabetiho krishnare bhajai. The living entities are wandering in different species of life on different planets, but if by chance they get the association of a pure devotee sadhu, they give up all other engagements and engage in the service of Lord Krishna. Shati arta kohilon sab krishnera bhajane se arta hoy e sab udarane. I have thus explained 60 different meanings, and all of them aim at the service of Lord Krishna. After giving so many examples, that is the only meaning. Ekshasti arta ebe sfurila tomasange tomara bhakti base ute artera tarange. Now, due to your association, another meaning has awakened. It is due to your devotional service that these waves of meaning are arising. The word Atma refers to the living entity, from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant ant. Everyone is considered a living entity. Living entities are considered part of the Lord's marginal potency. All of them are Kshetragya, knowers of the body. When they become near grunt or free, saintly persons, they engage in Lord Krishna's service. That is the 61st meaning of the verse. Aham vedmi shuko veti vyaso veti na veti va bhaktya bhagavatam grayam na bhujya na chaitita tikaya. Aham vedmi sukho veti vyaso veti na veti va bhaktya bhagavatam grayam na bhujya na cha tikaya. Lord Shiva said, I may know, Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, may know, and Vyasadeva may know or may not know Srimad Bhagavatam. On the whole, Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service, not by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary commentators. Aham vedmi shuko veti vyaso veti na veti va bhaktya bhagavatam grayam na budya na cha tikaya. Lord Shiva said, I may know, Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, may know, and Vyasadeva may know or may not know Srimad Bhagavatam. On the whole, Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service, not by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary circumstance, or imaginary commentaries. Devotional service includes 9 processes, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering the activities of Lord Vishnu. Only one who has taken to devotional service can understand Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the spotless Purana for a transcendentalist, Paramahamsa. So-called commentaries are useless for this purpose. So-called commentaries are useless for this purpose. According to the Vedic injunctions, Yasha Devi Parad Bhaktir Yata Deve Tata Guru. All Vedic literatures maintain that Srimad Bhagavatam has to be learned from the person Bhagavata. And to understand it, one has to engage in pure devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by so-called erudite scholars or grammarians. One who has developed pure Krishna consciousness and has served the pure devotee, the spiritual master, can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Others cannot. Artashuni Sanatana Vismitahaya Stuti Kore Mahaprabhu Charane Darya. After hearing all the explanations of all the different meanings of the Atmarama verse, Sanatana Goswami was struck with wonder. He fell down at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to offer prayers. Shakarishwara Tumi Brajendra Nandan Tomara Nishvase Sarva Veda Pravartan. Sanatana Goswami said, My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda. All the Vedic literatures are vibrated through your breathing. Tumi Bhakta Bhagavater, Tumi Jana Arta, Toma Bina Anya Janite Nahika Samarta. My dear Lord, you are the original speaker of the Bhagavatam. You therefore know its real import. But for you, no one can understand the confidential meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhu kohe keni kora amara staban Bhagavatera swarup kene nakora vidvan. Prabhu kohe keni kora amara staban Bhagavatera swarupa kene nakora vicharan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Why are you glorifying me personally? You should understand the transcendental position of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why don't you consider this important point? Krishna Tuya Bhagavata Vibhus Sarvashrai Prati Shloke Prati Akare Nana Arta Koi. Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in each and every syllable, there are various meanings. Prashnotare Bhagavate Koriyache Nirdar Jahara Shravane Loke Lage Chamatkar. The form of Srimad Bhagavatam is given in questions and answers. Thus, the conclusion is established. By hearing these questions and answers, one is highly astonished. Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne Brahmanye Dharma Varmani Swam Kashtam Aruno Pete Dharmakam Sharanam Gata. Now that Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam was a question raised by all the sages who were headed by Shonaka. The question put forward the great devotee Sutta Goswami. The question put forward the great devotee Sutta Goswami is the foremost of the six questions raised. The question put before the great devotee Sutta Goswami is the foremost of the six questions raised. The answer to this important question is given in the next verse also from Srimad Bhagavatam. Now that Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. So, Krishnesva Damo Bhagate Dharma Jnanadi Bisaha Kalo Nashta Drisham Esha Pura Narka Dunodita. After Lord Krishna departed for his own abode along with religious principles and transcendental knowledge, this Purana Srimad Bhagavatam has arisen like the sun in this age of Kali to enlighten those who have no spiritual vision. Emata kohilonek shlokara bhyakyan batulera pralapa kore ke kore praman. In this way, like a madman, I have explained the meaning of just one verse. I do not know who will take this as evidence. Amahena jeba keho batula hoy ejurste bhagavatera arta janoi. If one becomes a madman like me, he may also understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam by this process. Puna Sanatana Kohe Juri Dui Kore Prabhu Agya Dila Vaishnava Smriti Kore Bare. Folding his hands, Sanatan Goswami said, "My Lord, you ordered me to write a directory about the activities of Vaishnavas. Muni Nicha Jati Kichuna Janon Achar Mo Hoite Kaiche Hoi Smriti Prachar." I am a most low-born person. I have no knowledge of good behavior. How is it possible for me to write authorized directions about Vaishnava activities? Sutra Kori Disha Jadi Koraha Upadesh Apane Koraha Jadi Ridoya Pravesh. Sutra Kori Disha Jadi Koraha Upadesh Apane Koraha Jadi Ridoye Pravesh. Sanatan Goswami then requested the Lord, please personally tell me how I can write this difficult book about Vaishnava behavior. Please manifest yourself in my heart. So this is about Hari Bhakti Vilas. Tabe Tara Dishasvure Monichera Ridoy Ishwara Tumije Korahase Siddhahoy. If you would please manifest yourself within my heart and personally direct me in writing this book, then although I am low-born, I may hope to be able to write it. You can do this because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead yourself, and and whatever you direct is perfect. Prabhu kohe je korite koriba tumiman. Krishna se toma korabe swaran. Prabhu kohe je korite koriba tumiman. Krishna se toma koribe paran. Koribe swaran. Okay. Prabhu kohe je korite koriba tumiman. Krishna se toma karabe swaran. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, whatever you want to do, you will be able to do correctly by Lord Krishna's favor. He will manifest the real purport. Tatapiye sutra rashuna digdarshan sakaran liki ado guru ashrayan. Because you asked me for a synopsis, please hear these few indications in the beginning describe how one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Guru Lakan, Sishya Lakan, Dohara Prakash. Guru Lakan, Sishyu Lakan, Guru Parikram. Seva Bhagavan, Sarva Mantra Vicharan, Guru Lakan, Sishya Lakan, Dohara Parikram. Guru Lakan, Sishya Lakan, Dohara Parikram. Seva Bhagavan, Sarva Mantra Vicharan. Your book should describe the characteristic of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna should be described as the worshipable object, and you should describe the Bij mantra for the worship of Krishna as well as that for Rama or any other expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mantra Adhikari, Mantra Siddhyadi Shodan, Dika Prata, Smriti Kritya, Socha Achaman. Okay. Mantra Adhikari Mantras, Siddhi Adi Shodan, Dika Prata Smriti Kritya Shocha Achaman. You should discuss the qualifications necessary for receiving a mantra, the perfection of the mantra, the purification of the mantra, initiation, morning duties, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, cleanliness, and washing the mouth and other parts of the body. You should discuss the qualifications necessary for receiving a mantra, the perfection of the mantra, the purification of the mantra, initiation, morning duties, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, cleanliness, and washing the mouth and other parts of the body. Okay. Danta, Davana, Snana, Sadyadi, Bandhan, Guru Seva, Urdhva, Pundra, Prakrati, Dharan. You should describe how in the morning one should regularly brush his teeth, take his bath, offer prayers to the Lord, and offer obeisances to the spiritual master. You should also describe how one should render service to the spiritual master and point one's body and paint one's body in 12 places with Urdhva Pundra, tilak, as well as how one should stamp one's body with the holy names of the Lord or the symbols of the Lord, such as the disc and club. We don't do all these things, but we do some of these things. We're marking the body with tilak. Gopi Chandan, Maya, Driti, Tulasi, Aharan, Bastra, Prita, Griha, Samskara, Krishna, Prabhudan. After this, you should describe how one should decorate his body with gopi chandan, wear neck beads, collect tulasi leaves from the tulsi tree, cleanse one's cloth in the altar, cleanse one's own house or apartment, and go to the temple and ring the bell just to draw the attention of Lord Krishna. Pancha Shodasa Panchashat Upacharaj Acharan Pancha Kala Puja Arti Krishnara Bhojana Shayan. Also describe deity worship, wherein one should offer food to Krishna at least 5 times daily, and in due time place him on a bed. You should also describe the process for offering arti and the worship of the Lord according to the list of 5, 16, or 50 ingredients, different forms of. Also describe deity worship, wherein one should offer food to Krishna at least 5 times daily. And in due time, place him on a bed. You should also describe the process for offering arti and the worship of the Lord according to the list of 5, 16, or 50 ingredients. Do we place the Lord on a physical bed or a mantra bed?
Both.
Huh?
Both. The little deities have nice little beds.
Okay, and then the big deities, mantra beds. Okay. Shri Murti Lakanara Shalagrama Lakan Krishna Ketra Jatra Krishna Murti Darshan. The characteristics of the deity should be discussed, as well as the characteristics of the Shalagram Shila. You should also discuss visiting the deities in the temple and touring holy places like Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. Nama Mahima Nama Para Dure Varjan Vaishnava Lakan Seva Parada Dan Kandan. Now, you should glorify the holy name and explain that one must carefully give up offenses when chanting the holy name. You should also describe the symptoms of a Vaishnava and explain that one must give up or nullify all kinds of seva parad, offenses, and deity worship. Shankajala Ganda Pushpa Dupari Lakan Japa Stuti Parikrama Dandavat Bandhan. The items of worship such as water, conch shell, flowers, incense, and lamp. Okay, the items of worship such as water, conch shell, flowers, incense, and lamp should be described. You should also maintain chanting softly, which is japa, offering prayers, circumambulating, and offering obeisances. All these should be carefully described. Purascharana Bidi Krishna Prashara Bhojan Anivedita Tyaga Vaishnava Siddhanta Varjan. Other items, okay, Purascharana Bidi Krishna Prashad Bhojan Anivedita Tyaga Vaishnava Nindari Barjan. Other items you should describe are the method of performing Purascharana, taking Krishna Prasadam, giving up unoffered food, and not blaspheming the Lord's devotees. So, you should describe the method of performing Purascharana. Well, we do that when we do the fire sacrifice. We do different. activities of Purascharana, of taking prasad, giving up unoffered food, and not blaspheming the Lord's devotees. Sadhu Lakan, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sevan, Asat Sangha, Tyaga, Sri Bhagavata, Shravan. You should describe the symptoms of a devotee, how to associate with devotees, how to satisfy a devotee by rendering service, and how to give up the association of non-devotees. You should also explain the value of regularly hearing the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. You should describe the symptoms of a devotee, how to associate with devotees, how to satisfy a devotee by rendering service, and how to give up the association of non-devotees. You should also explain the value of regularly hearing the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Dina Kritya Paka Kritya Ekadashi Adi Vivaran Masakritya Jagannath. Okay. Dina Kritya Paka Kritya Ekadashi Adi Vivaran Masakritya Janmastam Jari Viri Vicharan. You should describe the ritualistic duties to be performed every day, and you should also describe the fortnightly duties, especially how to observe the fortnightly Ekadasi fast. You should also describe the duties to be observed every month, and you should especially describe the obeisance of ceremonies like Janmashtami, Ramakrishna Navami. Okay, you should describe the ritualistic duties to be performed every day, and you should also describe the fortnightly duties, especially how to observe the fortnightly Ekadasi fast. You should also describe the duties to be observed every month, and you should especially describe the observance of ceremonies like Janmashtami, Ram Navami, and Nrsimha Chaturdasi. Ekadasi Janmashtami, Vamana Dwadashi, Shri Rama Navami, Ara, Nrsimha Chaturdasi, Ekadasi Janmashtami, Vamana Dwadashi, Rama Navami, and Nrsimha Chaturdasi. All these should be described. Sabe Bida Tyaga Abida Karan, Akarane Dosha Koile, Bhaktira Lamban. You should recommend the avoidance of mixed Ekadasi and the performance of pure Ekadasi. You should also describe the fault in not observing Ekadasi. One should be very careful as far as these items are concerned. If one is not careful, one will be negligent in executing devotional service. Yeah?
What's mixed Ekadasi?
Well, Ekadasi is calculated by certain rules, and those rules govern that the Ekadasi begins from the sunrise. And I think there are, in the calculation of Ekadasi, there are days that are Ekadasi that we'll see on the calendars. It says Ekadasi, but not to be observed on this day. And that's because it's a mixed Ekadasi. There are different rules which invalidate worshiping that particular Ekadasi, maybe something like 2 sunrises within the same titi or the same day. We're going by Western calendar. And so on that day, there may be some fault that according to the calculations for Ekadasi, the sunrise has to occur between such and such hours. But then when it's placed on the titi, it may be when there are two sunrises in the same titi, then one of them the late one may be Ekadasi, and then that will be not valid, I guess, for observing Ekadasi on that day. It has to be on a day where it's a pure Ekadasi, and for that reason, sometimes we don't observe Ekadasis, we observe Mahadvadasis. There are different rules for the calculations of Ekadasis, when the sunrise is, and if sunrise is too late, then that day should not be chosen for Ekadasi.
So our calendar's accurate, pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
And so Mahadvadasi and Ekadasi, what is the difference?
Well, Mahadvadasi means like what we're talking about. The Ekadasi day is maybe mixed, or maybe there is no Ekadasi day, because sometimes when they're calculating days, there maybe no Chaturthi or no Dwadasi, etc., because the two of them occur in the same day of the calendar. So sometimes we see that even there's no Ekadasi day because that day has been skipped in the calculation of the titis. It hasn't occurred, so then maybe that's one of the kinds of Mahadvadasi. Then there's other forms of Mahadvadasi according to when the sunrise is, etc. One has to know astronomy and astrology to calculate that, because one is comparing the rules for the calculation of the Kadasis, Dwadasis, and all these, and any other day. One is comparing those with the actual Western calendar and trying to establish how to observe it. And also, it's also according to the Vaishnav calendar. There may be, like you're asking, a mixed Ekadasi, or there may not even be an Ekadasi on a particular month, and then the Mahadvadasi observed. So many different rules. I can't really completely explain your question because I'm not so knowledgeable about the calculations of the calendars. So,
Chaitanya Maharaj was doing that before?
yeah, he's still doing it, I believe. Esabi vidi tyaga avida karan akarane dosha koile bhaktira lamban. You should recommend the avoidance of mixed Ekadasi and the performance of pure Ekadasi. You should also describe the fault in not observing Ekadasi. One should be very careful as far as these items are concerned. If one is not careful, one will be negligent in executing devotional service. Sarvatra Pramana Dive Purana Bachan Sri Murti Vishnu Mandir Karana Lakan. Whatever you say about Vaishnava behavior, the establishment of Vaishnava temples and deities and everything else should be supported by evidence from the Puranas. Samanyashad achar ara Vaishnava achar kartavya sab smartavya vahar. You should give general and specific descriptions of the behavior and activities of a Vaishnava. You should outline things that are to be done and things that are not to be done. All this should be described as regulations and etiquette. E Sankepi Sutra Kohilun Digdarshan Jabe Tumi Likiba Krishna Korabe Swaran. I have thus given a synopsis of the Vaishnava regulative principles. I have given this in brief just to give you a little direction. When you write on this subject, Krishna will help you by spiritually awakening you. So this is being described by Mahaprabhu to Sri Sanatan Goswami, who will then engage in all these various activities, compiling Shastra, discovering the lost places of pilgrimage of Krishna, especially in Vrindavan, and also presenting Sri Hari Vilas, describing the behavior of the Vaishnavas. Eta Kohilu Prabhur Sanatane Prasad Jahara Shavane Chiter Kande Abasad. Thus I have narrated Lord Chaitanya's mercy upon Sanatan Goswami. When one hears these topics, one's heart will be cleansed of all contamination. Nija Grante Karnapur Vistara Korea Sanatane Prabhura Prasad Rakiache Likia. The authorized poet Kavi Karnapur has written a book named Chaitanya Chandrodoya Natika. This book tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Sanatan Goswami with his specific mercy. Gorendrasha Sababhibhushana Manis Chaktvan Yarid Ridam Shriyam Rupashya Graja Esha Eva Tarunim Vairagya Lakshmindade Antar Bhakti Rasena Purna Ridaya Maye Vyaduta Kriti Shaivalai Pihitam Mahasara Eva Priti Pradastadvidam. Srila Sanatan Goswami, the elder brother of Srila Rupa Goswami, was a most important minister in the government of Hussein Shah, the ruler of Bengal, and he was considered a most brilliant gem in that assembly. He possessed all the opulences of a royal position, but he gave up everything just to accept the youthful goddess of renunciation. Although he externally appeared to be a mendicant who had renounced everything, he was filled with the pleasure of devotional service within his heart. Thus he can be compared to a deep lake covered with moss. He was the object of pleasure for all the devotees who knew the science of devotional service. Although he appeared to be a mendicant who had renounced everything, he was filled with the pleasure of devotional service within his heart. Thus he can be compared to a deep lake covered with moss. He was the object of pleasure for all the devotees who knew the science of devotional service. Tam sanatanam upagatam akshnor drishtamatram atimatra dayardra atilinga parigayata durbhyam sanukampam ata champaka gora. As soon as Sanatan Goswami arrived in front of Lord Chaitanya, the Lord, seeing him, became merciful to him. The Lord, who was a complexion of a golden champak flower, opened his arms and embraced him while expressing great affection. Kalena Vrindavana Kelivarta Lupteti Tam Kaya Paitum Vishesha Kripam Ritena Bishi Secha Devas Tatraiva Rupam Sha Sanatanam Sha Kalena Vrindavana Kelivarta Lupteti Tam Kya Payitum Vishesha Kripam Ritena Bishi Secha Devas Tatraiva Rupam Sha Sanatanam Sha. In the course of time, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. To enunciate explicitly these transcendental pastimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami with the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Eta kohilun sanatane prabhura prasad Jahara Shravane Chiter Kande Ashwasad. I have thus explained the mercy bestowed on Sanatan Goswami by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If one hears this description, all moroseness in the heart will diminish. Krishnera Swarupa Ganer Sakala Hoy Gyan Vidiraga Marge Sarana Bhaktira Bidan. By reading these instructions to Sanatan Goswami, one will become fully aware of Lord Krishna's various expansions in the process of devotional service according to the regulative principles and spontaneous love. Thus everything can be fully known. Krishna Prema Bhakti Rasa Bhakti Rasidanta Ihara Shavane Bhakta Janena Sab Anta. By reading these instructions, a pure devotee can understand love of Krishna, the mellows of devotional service, and the conclusion of devotional service. Everyone can understand all these things to their ultimate end by studying these instructions. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Dvaita Charan Jara Prana Dana Se Paya Edana. The conclusion of these instructions can be known to one whose life and soul is the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu. Sri Rupa Raghunath Parijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Koke Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila, chapter 24, describing the Atmarama verse and the Lord's mercy upon Sanatan Goswami. Okay. Ready. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Raya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatham Manana Mohan Giridhari Gopinatham Manana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Karadara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Karadara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Chai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaite Vignana Shabhishta Puran Jaite Vignana Shabhishta Puran H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Tasabar Para Renu Mora Panchagras Tasabar Para Renu Mora Panchagras Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame Janame More Abhilas H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narasamudas. Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narasamudas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. 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 Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattacharya Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Ki Jai. Nartam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishwavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Srimad Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan. Shamkuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Sri Lochan Das Thakur Avirbhav Mahotsav Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.